I'm actually very shocked today because today's case, no other YouTubers have covered it. This case is named one of the most bizarre, deadliest cases in America, yet it's almost as if it's forgotten. And I was also shocked that one of the deadliest cases in America, the suspect was Korean. Of course, race and ethnicity had no part in today's case, but you can't help but, for me as a Korean growing up in America as well, maybe we can sort of try to guess what his family was like and if it contributed to his well-being. So today we're going to be covering the Virginia Tech shooting. This case is so confusing. I'm kind of baffled that there isn't much deep dive into what happened to him, his life, and what made him one of the craziest suspects ever. So sit back, you guys, grab a snack, grab a meal. Whenever I'm eating my meals, like lunch, I'm just like you guys. I like to sit back and watch crime stories and to take care of my health and to have fun. I've been eating a lot at home and cooking myself. So if you hate going to the grocery stores like me and you want to have restaurant quality meals at home, one of the ways you can do that is with HelloFresh. And I want to say a huge thank you to HelloFresh for continuing to support my channel. With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients delivered right to your doorsteps. And it comes with these cooking cards where there's instructions on how to cook. It is super easy to read these, follow them, and you have meals where I'm like, oh my god, I cooked this? Like, I'm actually a good cook? You guys, you don't need a big fancy kitchen to cook. Other influencers may have a big fancy kitchen, but I don't right now, so it tastes amazing every single time. It saves me a lot of time by not going to the grocery stores, and it saves so much food waste. I don't have to buy big bags of carrots, big bags of onions. They're all pre-portioned, so I'm finishing everything that comes in the box. My brother works at home. He's on a diet. He also lives alone, so he loves HelloFresh as well. He also lives very far from the grocery store, so he loves to get his food delivered to his doorsteps. This is not your regular spaghetti. It's like an upgraded level. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I get so excited just cooking. You can go to hellofresh.com/GRAZYTV16 to get up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. They make it very affordable for you to just try it. I tried meal kits for the first time and I fell in love with it. It was April 16th, 2007, a normal warm spring, and college students were going about their normal day, waking up, prepping for their classes. It was now 7:15 a.m. in the morning, and in one of the resident halls, which was a co-ed dorm room, a suspect walked inside student Emily Hilscher's room and fatally shot her. Another student who heard this loud gun sound went to check and see what was going on, but upon entering Emily's room, 22-year-old clerk was also fatally shot. Shockingly, the suspect actually ended up going back to his own dorm room, cleaned up himself, changed his clothes, and went onto his computer to delete his emails and remove a hard drive from his computer, which took about an hour. Then he casually walked to the post office and mailed a bizarre package to NBC News, which had his confession videos, rant, and a photo shoot of himself. Police were called to the dorm room incident, but at first they thought that the suspect fled the scene and had something to do with Emily's ex-boyfriend. The school did not alert any students. Just 2 hours later, around 9:40 a.m., the same suspect, who was now very prepared with various weapons, he entered the part of a school which was the engineer, science, and mechanics rooms, locked the 3 main entrance doors with chains. He went inside multiple classrooms in the 2nd floor, going down the aisle of each room to make sure he shot everyone inside. In total, he fatally shot 30 more people. We're gonna come back to the details of what happened this day because there's a lot more details and a lot more planning. But ultimately, the attack lasted about 10 minutes, and when the SWAT team arrived entering the building, the suspect shot himself and died on the scene. The suspect was named Seung Hui Cho. He was a Korean immigrant who was a 23-year-old senior at Virginia Tech. When seeing the face of the suspect, people were so shocked because Cho was known to be the shy, quiet, weird kid at school. He was like a ghost or a shadow to everyone. It was unimaginable because the kid that never talked in class, the least intimidating, the least violent, was now one of America's worst suspect ever. And this is where we're gonna dive into the confusing, dark mind of Seung Hui Cho. Cho was born on January 18th, 1984. He was born in South Korea to two very hardworking parents. His mother was described to be someone that was actually very well educated, but was put up to an arranged marriage when she was 29 years old to Cho's father, Mr. Seung Tae, who was 10 years her senior. Now, father, Mr. Seung Tae, was born from more of a poor family. He didn't have a lot of money, and he always had to work very hard. It was said that mother, Miss Cho, didn't really want to marry Mr. Seung Tae, and it seemed like they weren't really a match, but you know, especially Korea back then was very conservative, and you couldn't really stand up to your parents or your husband. It's still a thing, but especially back then you had to, you know, obey your seniors. The couple first had a daughter, then their second child was Cho. In South Korea, the parents worked at little shops. The father also bounced back from jobs in Korea and in another country. They lived in a very cheap, small basement and always struggled with money. The daughter, Cho's sister, was described to be very smart and humble. She actually later on grew up to graduate from Ivy League school, Princeton University. She also got an offer from Harvard. So you can see she was a very bright, smart student. On the other hand, since a very young age, Cho was different. Unlike his sister, Cho didn't speak at all. His grandparents say that since he was a child, he never responded to their callings. While other children would, you know, come to their grandparents, make jokes, and be like a child, Cho seems to not respond to anyone. The family actually thought that he was either autistic or even mute because they never heard his voice. His mother also said that Cho rarely responded to her, and she just could not get through to her own son. They were sure that he had some kind of maybe mental illness, or you know, maybe he was mute. But just like in pretty much many countries or around the world, mental illness is not really easily diagnosed. It's not something physical that you see, so it's hard to get help from. Especially from a conservative family, these things are more hidden and not taken too seriously. Eventually, for a better life, the family decided to move to the US, Virginia, in 1992 when Cho was 8 years old. In the US, the parents worked at a dry cleaners, worked about 6 days a week, pressing shirts. As an immigrant, I also know that it's a job that most Koreans have when they come to the US. You know, Koreans pretty much own dry cleaners. The mother also worked part-time at a restaurant, and the family ended up joining a Korean church, attending service every Sunday. It was at church where Cho's mother tried to seek help and try to get his son to open up. In school and church, there's rumor that because Cho could not make any friends, he was picked on by a lot of classmates. This has not been confirmed. I mean, I was picked on at school because of my race and because I was also that shy, quiet girl. So it is presumed that there was a lot of picking on going on in school. And also, I think the separation and not having friends could have contributed to his well-being kind of worsening as time went by. I'm sure he also felt isolated himself, and he didn't know why he was dealing with this. He didn't know himself. Eventually, he was diagnosed with severe anxiety and depressive disorder and selective mutism in school. It was reported that he did get some kind of counseling or therapy and special education. I don't know how far that went, and not much is known about his upbringing other than that. Some neighbors that lived around the area said that they didn't even know they had a son, and that's just how quiet and kind of shadow-like he was. The parents continued to work very hard to support their children. They eventually were even able to buy a house. They were excited about that. But the relatives say that, you know, the parents never talked about their son, Cho. So his parents rarely also talked about Cho to their family, relatives, friends, or anyone. Family and relatives were actually very surprised because Cho graduated and he got admitted to a college. Cho decided to major in English and business and got admitted to Virginia Tech in 2003. It's here in college where we believe that his behaviors and his mindset really start to spiral down. Due to some kind of medical privacy kind of laws or something like that, the school was never alerted about Cho's past medical history. His roommates described Cho as someone, again, very quiet, didn't talk, and at the time didn't really seem friendly, and because he didn't say anything or respond, they thought he was actually arrogant without obviously knowing that he had some things he was dealing with. The roommates say that, when they went out to eat with him, they would be lucky if they got one word answer. One of his roommates said, quote, "It was like talking to a brick wall." In another odd incident, they said that he was invited to a party, and other than drinking a little bit, Cho would just sit in the corner and stab the floor repeatedly. In poetry class, the professor recalls that she tried to get Cho to participate in class, in projects, class discussions, and he would just never talk nor respond. There are a few encounters where Cho started to secretly take photos of his other girl classmates and even tried to take photos of the professor. He also wrote violent and obscene poetry, and his writings were so dark, according to the professor, that she had to report it to the school. Combinations of him taking secret photos of his classmates and dark writings, he was eventually removed from the class. Along with that, a few of the professor tried to tell Cho to get therapy and help, which they believe he never followed up with. I believe the parents were notified of Cho missing certain classes and behaviors and things like that, but according to an article I read, because he was now, an adult, the parents trying to scold him and trying to control him didn't work as much anymore. The biggest thing is everybody that knew Cho says that they never saw him with anybody. He was always alone. The roommates also never recall the parents ever visiting the dorm. Maybe it was really far, I don't know, but I do remember my parents coming to my dorm and my brother's dorm, so I'm not sure if the parents never visited Cho or they just never saw. I just thought that was a little odd why the parents would never come and repeatedly check up on Cho time to time. The roommates claimed that Cho said that he had an imaginary supermodel girlfriend named Jelly, and the girlfriend called him Spanky, and that this girlfriend was living in space, that they met in space somehow. He also played the song Shine by Collective Soul over and over again, not changing the song. There was also incidences where he wrote song lyrics on the walls, and as you could see that there's repeated bizarre behaviors that a lot of people noticed. Up to here, there isn't really anything incriminating or too shockingly weird, until Cho started to stalk two females. In couple incidents, Cho was talking to about two girls online that was going to the same school, and his online name was question mark. Somehow he found the girls' addresses or the dorm rooms that they were staying in, and he went to stalk them, and the girls obviously got freaked out and creeped out, called the police. He was confronted by the police and they took him to a mental facility for a couple of days. No charges were filed with the police. According to the roommates who encountered this, because the police came to their dorm, they say, quote, Cho thought he was playing some kind of a game. In the mental health service, Cho was ordered to receive treatments as a physician said that he presented danger to himself and others, but Cho didn't follow up with this recommendation by the physician. It was actually, I believe, ruled by court that he had to attend, but police nor professors, the school, never followed up. So Cho never attended and nobody really cared. Because he was never admitted to the hospital or mental facility involuntarily, I believe there was no record, at least so far, that Cho was dealing with mental problems. Now this part is very controversial because there was nothing in his record so far. He was able to purchase a gun. It is reported that his parents did try to help Cho time to time, I guess when he was in college, but the thing that they did, where I guess they didn't know the extent to Cho's, odd, bizarre behaviors that he was doing in college. And I believe the mother tried to get help from her pastor because some of the church members were saying that he has a demonic demon inside of him, and that's how they were trying to get help, which obviously is bizarre itself, that they didn't get professional help or try to check up with him more frequently as they should have. Sometime before the actual shooting on April 16th, Cho started to build up some kind of package that he wanted to send to the media. He started to secretly film these selfie videos of him and his confessions and his bizarre rants. And this is actually one of the first times that pretty much anyone hears him talk. NBC News says, quote, "The package included a 1,800-word manifesto-like statement in which Cho expresses rage, resentment, and desire to get even. The material is very hard to follow." There was no one specific that he was really talking to. He never mentioned it. His rants was just talking about random things that no one could really quite understand, which just gives you a glimpse of his mindset and how deeply he was in need of help. In some of the videos, he said, quote, "When the time came, I did it. I had to. You pushed me to the corner." And he goes on in a bizarre rant. Again, it wasn't targeted towards one person, but there was a part where he talked about his hatred or blame towards the wealthy. First of all, he's not mute. He spoke English. Minus what he was saying, obviously. His voice was there. He was speaking very clear. He knew how to read, write, and talk despite what he was, portraying to his classmates and his family. It's just he did all of this alone. I mean, the shy, quiet student seems so comfortable and confident in an odd way, obviously. Very arrogant and talking like he has been doing this all his life. It's as if he couldn't distinguish the reality in his own mind, and his own dark mind became his reality and the only thing that he knew. It was clear that his health was at the lowest point, and unfortunately, no one really noticed enough. It was now April 16, 2007, when he walked inside a dorm at 7:15 a.m. shooting 2 people. 2 hours later, he went inside the school hall, chaining up the entrances, then went up to room 200, first gearing up with his many rounds of ammos that he bought, then looked into several classrooms to observe and see how many people were in there. He went into room 206 to fire his first shots. 9 out of 13 people, including the professor, was killed. Room 211, 2 students tried to barricade the door, but Cho was able to push through, killing Noark and Henry Lee, whom were the ones trying to barricade the door. Another student, Matthew, tried to tackle Cho, but he was fatally shot multiple times before he could. Cho then went up and down the classrooms to make sure he tried to shoot everyone down the row, with most of the students trying to play dead. He continued to go inside multiple classrooms, and many tried to barricade the door. Some rooms were safe and some rooms were not. In room 204, a professor who was also a Holocaust survivor held the door until his students escaped through the window. Unfortunately, he was faced with the killer and was fatally shot. It was now 10 minutes of this horror. That's when the SWAT team was finally able to enter the building. At this point, it seems like Cho noticed that the SWAT team was there. And at that moment, we don't know what he was going through or what he was thinking, but he pointed the weapon to himself and pulled the trigger. He died on scene. On this day, 32 people lost their lives, with over 30 others injured. As I was researching this, I cried. So many people are just going their everyday lives the same morning as you would be, like any other day, and it would be the last for some people. People wondered how Cho's family responded. Where were they? They actually never gave public interviews ever. There's no videos, nothing, just private messages that the family gave. Cho's family left town the day of the shooting as police warned them that there would be a lot of chaos and a lot of threats and they could be in danger. So I believe they moved out for a couple months and eventually came back to the same house. A statement made by Cho's sister, she said, "We are humbled by this darkness. This is someone that I grew up with and loved. Now I feel like I don't know this person. He has made the world weep. We are living in a nightmare." Of course, the family got a lot of threats, hate mails, but at the same time, they also got people who sympathized with them as they also lost a child. Neighbors and family said that they tried to keep it as low as they can. They talked to nobody. They didn't want to talk to anybody. It's kind of like an Asian thing, I guess, to feel the shame for the whole entire family of what one person has done. Many people believe that in Cho's dark mind, along with separation and loneliness, maybe made him feel like there was a superior force, or like people were against him, you know, like how we mentioned the wealthy. But ultimately, to a lot of people, at the end of the day, this was a case of someone that needed deep professional help that never received it. But in a way, I also don't blame anyone, because psychological problems are so complicated that most people don't know how to give help. I mean, sure, could there have been more things done? Of course, such as the parents following up more frequently and not knowing the full extent to the situation, to the loopholes and laws that Cho was able to get by, to the school not notifying the students about what was happening early in the morning that could have prevented this. Also, at the end of the day, it was Cho himself who decided to do this. And I hope that through these stories that we can prevent something like this in the future, that certain people should not be allowed to buy weapons so easily. My heart just goes out to the victims. These were innocent victims that lost their lives that day. I can't imagine what these families went through. I just hope that this case isn't forgotten. So I thought it would be really nice to share this. Let me know what you guys have thought about this case, and see you guys in my next video. You guys, it's 2:22 and today is February 2nd, 2022.